Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Carl. I am your host, Carl Zellner, one of the attorneys with Anderson Business Advisors. And today we're going to talk about equity stripping. Okay, equity, when we talk about equity, most cases it's going to refer to your real estate in this scenario, whether it be your personal residence, investment properties. Equity is the amount, for those of you who don't know, is the portion that if you sold the property at the estimated value, what portion would come back to you as cash. So whatever portion you own, less whatever debt is on the property. Equity is one of the things that a plaintiff's attorney will look at if they're trying to sue you to see what they can get out of your property, whether it's personal residence or investment properties. Differentiator between personal residence and investment properties is that personal residences are generally have some level of equity protection from the homestead laws in your state, ranging from next to nothing to, say, a state like Texas where it's unlimited homestead exemption. But what's nice about equity stripping is that you can make your property, whether it's individual residence or your investment property, look less attractive to potential creditors by making that equity disappear, which we term as equity stripping. For those of you who are already clients of Anderson Advisors and say platinum and that are platinum clients, there is actually an equity stripping kit in our platinum portal for you to use, which takes you through the whole scenario, has all the documentation you'll need. Really the only thing you have left to do is then file it at your county office and it'll show up on the property. So what is equity stripping when it comes to real estate? Ultimately, we look at it as almost the same thing as a mortgage or a deed of trust. Mortgages and deeds of trust are simply liens on the property, which makes the property look encumbered. Now, when it comes to equity stripping, there's a couple different routes you can go. Number one is if you do have equity in the property and you do actually want to access the cash in that property, you can always go the HELOC route or cash out refi route and actually have the bank strip the equity by paying you money to secure the equity in the property. The other route is if you don't want to necessarily work through a bank or don't necessarily want to access those funds or the equity in your property, you can always file what's called a friendly lien against your property. Meaning, say for my, say if I have a rental property and I have $100,000 in equity, I can actually go down to the county recorder's office and file a lien against my own property that would remove that equity, meaning there would be loan documents and it would say it's an $80,000 loan. I would file a lien against the property for $80,000. So it works just like your mortgage, except within your own entity structure, you can actually act as your own lender and you can actually strip that equity from the property. So if somebody just pulls a title report to see what you own or see what kind of equities in the property, it looks like it's already being claimed or liened by another creditor, and they would have to, if say we're talking about getting sued, they would actually step behind that current creditor. So when you take the equity out of a property, it looks like a much less valuable asset to a potential plaintiff's attorney. One caveat here is if you're going to put a friendly lien on your property and you're not planning for money to change hands when in that transaction, that lien is most likely going to be set aside if somebody still sues you and tries to get to that property. So this is more of a smokescreen sort of strategy in that if it's just a cursory overview or somebody's taking a look from the outside, the property looks encumbered and not attractive. So it's kind of like saying there's an attorney that's going to be going after a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow they can't see. And in most cases, that's enough to be termed as what we call sort of attorney begone, in that if there's nothing to gain, then there's not a whole lot of reason for the attorney to come after you, since there's a huge difference in the legal realm between getting a judgment and collecting on that judgment. So this is what we refer to as equity stripping. There's lots of different ways you can do it. For the most part, though, like I said, for our current clients, there is a whole packet for you within the Platinum portal. For those of you who are not clients and maybe want some more information on it, please feel free to contact us. You're always encouraged to have your free consultation. We'd also encourage you to come to any of our in-person classes, as well as please keep taking advantage of our free content. We love educating the public. We want everybody to have the information so that you don't unintentionally walk yourself into a situation out there, because there are lots of situations to walk into, and quite frankly, we like giving back, so we like to educate. So for this episode, signing off, this is Carl Zellner with Anderson Advisors. Thanks for joining me with this episode of Coffee with Carl.